this on Friday in the Oval Office. Let's listen.
You're very close to the technology CEOs. Are they concerned about that?
Everyone's going to be happy, and we're going to be able to keep people in our country that are going to be very productive people. And in many cases, these companies are going to pay a lot of money for that, and they're very happy about it.
Well, it is going to be a lot of money. We don't know if they're very happy about it. Let's start with our panel now. Bloomberg Politics contributor Rick Davis, partner at Stone Court Capital, our Republican strategist, joined by Bloomberg Politics contributor and Democratic analyst Jeanne Zaino, democracy visiting fellow at Harvard Kennedy School's Ash Center. Great to see you both here. Rick, you're no stranger to the business world. Is this true that companies at $100,000 a pop will be very happy to pay it if it means getting the actual manpower that they need to conduct these projects, whether it's data centers or anything else?
Yeah, the assumption everyone's working from is there's going to be a load of new H-1B visas that are issued for this kind of tariff. And if that's the case, that does satisfy a lot of the concerns that the tech community has had with being able to get qualified workers to come in and work in their systems here in the United States. There have been a lot of limitations put on this program over the years that has stifled growth of these companies. And I would say I don't think it's ever slowed down the recruitment of domestic tech workers. That's been at a premium for a long time. Universities have had to open up new schools to just supply the amount of capability that these companies need, and they still don't have enough. So when you have an engine that is a major part of global growth and certainly a significant part of the growth in the US, you want to feed it. And if it costs you $100,000 to get what you want, my guess is a lot of these companies will take whatever they can get to be able to get new H-1 visas issued.
I had a feeling you might say that, and I don't know, they may not be happy to shell out the money, as the president said, but Jeanne, high tech is one thing. Farming, for instance, might be a different. Healthcare is another. The president says there'll be a carve out for doctors. Is there some good being done here in that it does unlock additional H-1Bs that would not otherwise be available?
Yeah, I think this is a gray area because we have long known that the visa process is broken. Everybody agrees with that. And the president is right to look at reform. But there's a difference between taking a hammer and taking a scalpel. And what they've done is taking a hammer. And we saw that over the weekend. We had people on planes who were turned around and came back because they were worried about leaving the country and getting in. And then the administration came out and explained this only applies to new visas. So there's a problem of execution, but there's also long-term impacts on the US. And just one, you and Mike Shepard have been talking all day today about TikTok. TikTok has been one of the greatest successes in terms of soft power that we've ever seen, and it is at the hands of China. That power matters to our future economically, militarily, economically. And so if you don't reform the system, if you simply break it and you impact the ability of skilled laborers to get into this country, we are in the danger as a country of losing when it comes to our power base. And so all of these things are critically important. So I think what we have here is important to reform, but that problem of execution is one we've seen over and over again with this administration.
Well, Jeanne went there to TikTok, Rick, so I'm going to ask you about it as somebody who puts deals together every day at Stone Court Capital, what you're thinking about what we're hearing so far. And I realize some of these things could change and we do not have an actual deal on paper yet, but we're talking about no golden share, yet 6 of 7 board seats, and a plan here to license the algorithm that would be controlled by Oracle. Does this sound like we're getting off to the right start here? And by the way, this has followed a series of delays and a law that we're ignoring at the moment. Rick, does this sound like a good deal in the works for the United States?
Yeah, I think devil's in the details on this. I mean, everybody knew Oracle would be at the center of it, as mentioned earlier on the program by Mike. It's the cloud computing center. They've offered to host it in the past. You knew that the synergies with them would be significant enough, especially their cybersecurity capability to try and keep the Chinese out of the back door. I would say, worries about a, 7th board member appointed by anybody in China or reporting back to anybody in China. If this was a defense company, they wouldn't allow that to happen. Any other kind of strategic companies can't have that. Why would we let TikTok have it? So I guess there are going to be some things that, we'll have to chop some wood to get to the bottom of. But the fact that it gets it out of the control and the hands of a bunch of people who have been helping to destroy our society with all the malicious activity done through TikTok. I'm not saying it's the only thing that TikTok does, but it has certainly added to the divides within our country. And hopefully that algorithm can be tweaked to take some of the heat off of the propaganda from China into the U.S.
Yeah, boy, it's amazing. Jeanne, remember Block the Talk? This was the most bipartisan affair in Washington. Was hating on this thing. It was a national security concern, and we were going to shut it down. Things have evolved remarkably since then. I guess my question is, what happens to the Republican and, for that matter, Democratic lawmakers who are screaming about national security enough to pass a law, and how long it'll take them to catch up with President Trump on this?
Yeah, how things change when something helps you win an election. And of course, both Trump and Biden used it in 24.
That's right.
I think that we've seen that the Congress has been willing on the Republican side to bend to Donald Trump's will. I think we will likely see that again. But I think the devil's really in the details. What does this agreement look like when they see it? Because the national security component is critically important. And, I think it's really critical to say that again on this this visa issue, this H-1B visa issue, look at China's response to it. China not only sent a fairly cool response to it, and similar to other countries that use it a lot, like India, but they also have responded with these K visas, right? So whereas the United States is closing the door on potentially critically important skilled workers, China is opening it. And I think this is what we mean about long-term impact. They now are in a position to sell us potentially this algorithm from TikTok. They are now welcoming young, skilled talent. This has long been where the United States has thrived and excelled. We have been the envy of the world. And that's why, yes, reform the visa system, but do not do it so that you diminish our ability to compete long term. That's the concern on all of these fronts.
Of course, Rick, this deal is still going to require the approval of Beijing. And we haven't heard a lot from China about this TikTok deal. We got a readout on the call the president had with Xi last week. But should we take the White House as the final word on this? Because that's pretty much our only source at the moment.
Yeah, I think that time will tell. The Chinese are not about making snap decisions. Obviously, this thing has been lingering around, starting to stink up the business community a lot. What's going to happen to TikTok? Is it going to get shut down or is it going to get bought out? The Chinese would be smart to get this done quick. If this hangs over U.S.-Chinese relations, it's going to cause a lot of consternation in the Congress, to the point where, as you pointed out, a lot of Republican members really went out of their way to try and shut this down because they saw it as an agent of the Chinese government, of the Communist Party. And if this doesn't get done quickly, it gives them the potential to say, you know what, this doesn't go far enough. We don't have enough guarantees. China will still have a backdoor to this process. And can really start creating some issues. I've seen a lot of polling around TikTok, and if you're on it, you love it. If you're not on it, you hate it. And a lot of parents whose children are on it hate it. So I mean, there is a political dynamic to this going into the 26 elections.
Boy, there's two strikes for me on that one. Not on it. Got a kid who is. Jeanne, how about the students you see every day at Iona, at Harvard? How important is this to them? Because Donald Trump has clearly decided that this is a big deal. When he put the teaser out on social media, remember, he referred to it as a company that young people like a lot. How important is this for the young electorate?
Yeah, I think it's very important, particularly a lot of those people who communicate on it, who make their living on it. We've seen the lobby for it. But the reality is that what incentive does China have here what is the United States giving up to get this deal? Because the power is unfortunately in China's hands. You know, what are they getting out of this? The reality is they have what we want. Donald Trump is famous for going around the world and sort of slapping other countries, but there's a few he can't slap. China has been one. Russia has been another, right? We're in a multipolar world. Those two in particular, he has a very tough time with. So I think the devil is going to be in what does this deal look like? What did the U.S. give up to get this algorithm? And Donald Trump has been known, by the way, to say he's got an agreement before it's been inked. And so, yeah, I do watch his social media and see that, oh, we've got this deal. Things are looking great. That's not what we hear many times from the Chinese side or the other side of these potential deals. So I think we have a ways to go here until we see what this deal actually looks like. And let's not forget, in the meantime, the Trump administration is in violation of both a law by Congress and a decision by the Supreme Court. And that is something that doesn't get addressed enough because there was legislation signed on this issue and the Supreme Court did issue a ruling against Trump, and he has so far ignored that with absolutely no repercussions.
They always give us a new way of looking at things. Jeanne, Zaino, and Rick Davis, Bloomberg Politics contributors, thank you both for a great conversation and for going into overtime with us today so we could get a chance to bring you a series of other conversations this hour, including our interview with Governor Josh Shapiro. Rick and Jeanne will be back on the late edition of Balance of Power. I'm Joe Matthew in Washington. Glad you're with us here on the Monday edition. As we turn to Wall Street now, we haven't heard from Charlie Pellet in a bit here. He's got his hands on the markets for us. Live from World Headquarters in New York. Charlie?